welcome everyone to the public element of the Growth Borough Partnership. None of us can say as we were rudely interrupted because none of us were here the last time this meeting happened in public, I don't think. But I'm really pleased that the hard work of both officers and members over the past 2 years has led to a moment where we're publicly coming back together. Obviously, we're coming back together in unusual times, and whenever I'm in a Hackney live meeting, I reference that it's disappointing that we have to meet in person to conduct business in this way, and that we haven't had the protections that other parts of government have had over recent years. But I do welcome everyone to Hackney Town Hall, and especially Mayor Fiaz and Deputy Mayor Blake and council colleagues who have joined us online as well. And we will be having a public element of the meeting for people watching, and then moving to exclude press and public for more commercially sensitive items later on in the agenda. I think that's what the previous Growth Borough Partnership did for those that were part of it, and I think it's an important element of this. Technically, we need the first agenda item to appoint me as chair. We've talked in the informal meetings that have led up to today of having a rotating chair between the 4 boroughs. And I think that is what we intend to do. This is not a permanent sort of status for me as Mayor of Hackney or Hackney leading this agenda. But if colleagues are happy, and I'm looking at colleagues that I can be appointed as chair for this first part of the civic cycle, and then obviously next year we will do this again, and I'll pass the baton on. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Apologies for absence.
There are no apologies for absence.
No apologies for absent.
Mayor John Biggs.
Mayor John Biggs. And
No, I'm not apologising for the leader. I'm here to represent them now.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any officer apologies? Sorry? They're on the virtual call, though. They're on the virtual call. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Should we do some very quick introductions? We'll also get a chance to test the virtual feed for colleagues that are in the chamber. My name's Philip Campbell, Mayor of Hackney. I'll go round.
My name is Peter Gray, Governance Services, Hackney.
Simon Miller, Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Housing Development, Waltham Forest.
Councillor Rachel Blake, Deputy Mayor, London Borough of Tower Hamlets.
Mayor Roxanne Fiaz, London Borough of Newham.
Andrew Monk, Head of Employment Skills and Adult Learning at Hackney Council.
Sam Cunningham, Growth Borough Partnership Manager.
Thank you. Can I just suggest someone closes the door, and then we'll move on to the virtual feed. Oh, sorry. Mayor Biggs has joined us.
Oh, he's here.
Where is it best for Mayor Biggs to sit to maintain social distancing and the layout? Possibly opposite where Mayor Fiaz is, and then I can see. Watch the trip hazard. Yeah. And just for the benefit of people on the live stream, could they hear the introductions, or do we need people to? They could. Brilliant. So I will hand over for introductions from colleagues that are joining us on the live stream. So David.
Thank you, Chair. So it's Dave Hughes. I am the Corporate Director for Inclusive Economy and Housing at London Borough of Newham.
Jennifer.
Jennifer Doughton, Commercial Director, Housing Delivery for London Borough of Waltham Forest.
And Andy.
Andy Simpson, Head of Strategy Policy for London Borough of Tower Hamlets.
Fantastic. And Mayor Biggs.
Do I need to press a button?
Just project.
Okay, so I'm Mayor Biggs. I'm the Mayor of Tower Hamlets. I've come to keep an eye on Councillor Blake, who's from Tower Hamlets.
And me.
And all of us. Well, welcome to Hackney Town Hall. Are there any declarations of interest? I suppose there's an inevitable declaration that the members, some of us were on the LLDC board, which is obvious, but should be recorded, I think, at this moment. Are there any other additional declarations of interest that are relevant or not recorded in our respective borough declarations? No. Great. So item 5 is the Growth Borough Partnership terms of reference. And I think I'm right in saying, and I'll ask Andrew to speak to the item in a second, that they're unchanged from when this group last met, apart from Greenwich and Barking and Dagenham stepping back from the partnership, and that our intention over the next year of work programme as we shadow the LLDC transition work is to refresh those terms of reference in our work around how we structure ourselves. But obviously this body would have to update its terms of reference, so it is meeting under the terms of reference that it currently has. Is that correct? And I'll get Andrew to provide some more context.
Yes, that's all correct. Nothing really more to add on that. As for work with LLDC, which is Borough Transition Group, a senior officers liaise with regularly, develops about a reset board for the successor body, which there's a paper on, which will be discussed when later on. The terms of reference will be addressed accordingly. The only areas, aside from what the Mayor said about it moving from 6 to 4 boroughs to reflect the reset partnership, is just to draw people's attention to the membership and the quora section. There have been 2 elected members invited from each borough. To be quora, we will always need to have at least 1 member from each borough, which of course we do have here to make those decisions. So nothing really more to add on that, actually, aside from the fact that, as discussed at the informal meeting, this joint committee will meet twice a year. So the next one will be in February, so we will be on that cycle. So yeah, nothing more to add there.
Thank you, Andrew. I saw Deputy Mayor Blake first.
Just on the membership, we need to say that it could be 2 councillors or mayors, because there's 3 mayors, and so that will need to be that it could be a mayor rather than a councillor, because there's other committees where that's been an issue. So I just think that needs tidying up around intention.
Yes, absolutely correct. Apologies for that. Yes, we can make a note of that.
And it might make more sense to say nominated by, rather than just the cabinet, it be the mayor or the leader, because the cabinet, because of internal governance arrangements about how appointments are made.
Okay.
You're very quiet, Rachel. Can I?
Oh, sorry.
Can I just go to Councillor Simon Miller first, and then come back to you, Mayor Biggs?
Thanks very much. So obviously we're very comfortable with the overarching terms of reference, but just a point around the number of times in which the word convergence has surfaced across them, and maybe we need to look at that and maybe reframe it in the context of transition.
So the references to convergence throughout the document, and that's something we've obviously been talking about a lot, haven't we?
Yes, so that on the discussions around, and this will come up when we think about the work Renati have been doing about future vision, as that gets discussed in terms of a reset LLDC board, I think it's highly likely the next paper to the joint committee, we will come with a proposed alternative phrasing to convergence, which will go through BTG, given that it's not that relevant as it was, 9 years ago.
Back to Mayor Biggs.
I wait the slideshow. I had one trivial observation, which is that you might have covered this earlier, under item 5, the one I have, it still describes itself as the 6 growth boroughs, so I guess 6 should be changed to 4.
Oh, absolutely right there, Biggs. I'm not sure how. Yes,
we did change it.
I think there was a.
Okay.
Yeah.
Apologies.
So can we agree under that item that taking on board what Mayor Biggs has identified, Deputy Mayor Blake, and then so in terms of tidying up this as it is framed, and then absolutely, as Councillor Miller said, the focus on the ongoing work through the BTG and then coming. Do you think we're on an arc to update our terms of reference in February? So the meetings in between, both the officer working group and indeed our own informal version of this, will have that all. That's the sort of intention, and then we'll be agreeing afresh. That's
so one very minor further point. So obviously references to the growth borough area in this, and the question being whether we mean reset MDC in the sense of reference or the totality of the full boroughs. So I'm sure we can provide functionality on that in writing, maybe.
So when discussion around updates from LLDC, make clear that the reset geography, but yes, that will be reflected in revised in terms of reference. But of course, there is some discussion to be had there about, where leaders, mayors see the kind of impact of their work being.
okay. So are we noting this with those caveats today? Are we happy to? I want to just pass on apologies to Deputy Mayor Nicholson. Obviously, if we're talking about the possibility of 2 reps from each borough, I think Deputy Mayor Nicholson would possibly be here as well under normal circumstances, I think. Is that right?
I think I should formally apologise to Councillor Blake because I can't actually hear anyone. I'm not too sure why this is.
Okay, well, I'll continue to project or attempt to. So, we're agreeing, we're noting our existing terms of reference. We've had a debate on them and some of the immediate tidying up that we can ask officers to do, and then the detailed work is happening at the BTG, our next informal meeting, and will come to our next joint committee. I think that's the actions.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Great. Agreed. Bear with me 1 second. So item 6 has been deferred, which is presentation. Item 7 is for us to agree to exclude public and press. Under a resolution that hopefully will be all familiar to members, that the press and public be excluded from proceedings of joint committee during consideration of exempt items 7 to 11 on the agenda, on the grounds that it's likely, in the view of the nature of business to be transacted, that were members of the public to be present, there would be a disclosure of exempt business as defined in Part 1, Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended. Are we happy to agree with that?
Agreed.
Agreed. So Mary, stop the live stream and we'll move into private business.